Hello, everyone, and welcome to Search, Deploy, Commit. Thank you so much for joining us here again on another episode where we talk about everything Warzone. Today, I have a very special guest, one of the original OG players of Warzone. I mean, I think you've probably, I don't know if I've had a player that's been on longer than you. P.S. Thank you so much for being on the show and for talking with me about this game we call Warzone,
Hello,
or for
thank you.
you would have been called Warlight, right?
I still call it Warlight even nowadays. So thank you so much for having me. So for me, it's a pleasure to talk about stuff, and I invested so much of my time to develop Warlight stuff. So I'm always happy to talk about it.
Yeah, no, and we're really happy to have you here. And I was going back, and I think you also have so much content out, probably more than anybody out on Warlight, Warzone on YouTube even. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so much content that you have from even before the switch over to the new title, the new
Yeah, before it was
interface.
Warzone. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's so much of it. So I really see you as kind of the OG when it comes to uh, content for people to like actually go out and watch and like go through tutorials. And so it's really special for me to have you here because it's something that I wanted to sort of help continue the tradition in and go about doing that. But I always like to start the interviews off with how did you first get connected to the game? Like how did you I mean, we're talking back, I think 2011 you
Yeah,
started
I
playing
started
this?
2011. I just checked my profile yesterday before we recorded just to remind myself when did I join. And yeah, it was
Wow.
2011. And I think it was because we were at the creative arts residency thing, and a friend of mine
Okay.
was playing, and we started playing between us. And then we started noticing that we were spending more time playing the game instead of actually doing, creative art residency stuff that we were supposed to be doing instead. So it was
Wow.
immediately an addiction. And yeah, then after the creative residency, which was just like a week or something like that, then when I went home, I kept playing and I checked out solo mode and all that stuff. So that's how I got hooked.
Yeah. Wow. So you and a friend just came across it looking for games to play, or how did you find it?
Yes,
Do you remember?
strategic
It just showed up.
strategic games, and I used to like. I had Risk as a kid. I was used to play with against my brother, which is an older brother, and I used to beat him, and he was always upset that I beat him. So he stopped playing because he didn't want to lose against me. So yeah, I always liked strategic games. So for me, when I saw this, it was very interesting, and that's what got me hooked.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, I was looking back. I mean, you were in some of the original, obviously, tournaments and games that were going on inside of Warlight. What?
We had a WGL at the time, which was we still
Okay.
have a few now and again, which was like a gaming live stream event that happened, and I wasn't the first person to do it. I picked it up when someone was already like not wanting to do it as often. Before me, there were I'm trying to remember the name. Schwezigin. I don't know how to say the name.
Yeah, it's some combination of word or letters.
Svenigen, I think it was called. There was a very big, strong Polish scene at the time.
Okay.
Svenigen was one of them, and he used to commentate somewhat. And there were a couple other Polish guys who also helped me uh, organize that stuff. Which, of course, I forget the names now. And even before then, there were some other people who were also organizing, some people from the US as well, that were organizing the original WGL series, which was just live streaming. And at some point, they stopped. And I used to like participate as a player and hear them commentate, and I learned a lot with those streams. And then when they stopped doing them, I picked it up and I tried to carry on that thing, and that's what started having videos on YouTube, because I would record the sessions and would put them up on YouTube, and there was
Hmm.
always like a small following of people. There were always 20, 30 people around the thing.
Yeah.
And I think we did like weekly at least
Wow.
things for a while, so it was very intense. And so met a lot of people, had a lot of fun games, and a lot of memes where I tried to play at the same time that I would organize the event, and I would always lose at the second round. The first round I would always win because it would be easy. Second round I would be busy with the streaming and casting and all the stuff, and I couldn't think properly, and I would always fuck up and lose on the second round.
Sure.
So that was the meme that happened there. So
Well,
yeah,
I've had
that's
other players talk fondly about WGL and their experiences, from some of the older times. So it's
yeah,
really cool that you got to participate in that
yeah,
and
and
even run it.
this was before Clan League even showed up, so it was older than that, and that's that was one of the main places where you could go find strategic games. Like during the evenings, you could log in, and there were a lot of people doing 3 versus 3 Europe, and you would learn a lot of strategy. And those were like very high tier players. A lot of people from the 20 clan that existed back then, and surrounding people from that high category. I was like, you calling me an OG, and for me it's like, no, there were a lot of people that were much talented and started much earlier than I did. But
Sure.
but yeah, when I started playing Warlight, they still had the Congregate version, and it was still Flash and all those things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow. So did they even have like quick matches? Did Fizzer implement that into the game yet? Was there an option to just jump into a live match still?
No. That's very recent, actually, the quick match. There was one, you could do it with like default Earth, small. It's not small Earth. It's the usual standard ladder settings that they used to have.
Oh, sure.
Those were very easy to get a quick match like that. But there was no ladder system for the quick match that we have now. There was like regular ladders, and you could see the open games. And on the open games, you would go to open games and you would see whatever is happening real time, and you would just join if you wanted to have real time. You also had the tournaments already in place. That was very common as well. And a lot of tournaments went like for months. Some even took years to finish, which was completely ridiculous back then, because they had like holidays and stuff that you could have those kind of settings.
Sure. Yep.
And I think a couple of years ago, Fizzer culled that a lot to have more strict things to avoid those kind of situations. But it was still very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's still holidays that you can get if you're a member and things like that.
And the ladders that existed was just 1 versus 1 ladder, which was Middle Earth. Back when it was still 70% weighted random luck, which is different from the straight random settings that are nowadays. Well, nowadays, for like 10 years now, it's straight random on the ladder. There was only 1v1 ladder. There was the 2v2 ladder. And then eventually a lot of people complained, and the 3 versus 3 ladder showed up, which was much later. And also the real-time ladder happened at some point. And then when the quick match was introduced, the real-time ladder completely fell apart. Well, but now we also have the clot system, which I also saw it happening, and talked a lot with Fizzer about that as well. It was a cool thing also that Fizzer also participated on the WGL a few times. Like he would show up, he would even join commentating, stuff like that. Even the first Ask Me Anything sessions that he did was after like seeing us doing so many stream stuff about Warlight, that he was like, okay, maybe I should also stream some stuff and stream some development. So he started doing the streams after that. So it was really cool to have them there and have everybody asking him questions directly.
Yeah.
And it was very cool.
That's cool. You sort of see how he's really leaned on the creativity of the community, and obviously I think welcomes that as much as he can into his own game, right? And makes it so open for people. On the conversation of WGL, what do you feel really stood out about that in comparison to Clan League, as they've kind of seen both?
Well, what I liked about WGL was that it was immediate. You would have to be there throughout the afternoon. You have to play the games immediately and don't have to wait around. Personally, for me, I like real-time games more than accumulating multi-day games.
Sure.
Because I get lost with too many games, and I have to rethink of all the things that happened before doing my move. And I just prefer real-time games more
Yeah.
than that. And WGL had that incentive that everything was real-time, even if you just finished your game and then you were on the stream just chatting with other people about what happened and watching the games being reviewed. It still had this a lot more immediacy. And there was no chat on Warlight at the time, and there was no Discords.
Oh,
So this was the only place where we could
sure.
actually chat real time. You would post on the forums, you would have a link, and then people would be chatting real time on Twitch. This was like, there was no alternative. We had like groups on Skype to coordinate stuff because there was no
Wow.
Discord at that point yet. So
Wow.
that's crazy. Like if you think that nowadays, like of course there's Discord, of course there's chat on the real time chat
Right.
on the website. At the time, there was no real time chat. Fizzer was very against having a real time chat there. Before even showing that the
Hmm.
person was online, it was already a revolution. And when we finally added the chat, no, yay, everybody can chat now, but we already have Discord, so now it doesn't matter. But yay, he finally implemented it.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I mean, and he actually just recently put out a couple updates in regards to just really long group chats in the game because there's so much data on
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
these really long-term ones.
We used to use the games to keep in touch with people. We would have like a game that would never start, and you would have everybody that you wanted included on the
Yeah,
conversation there just to chat real
right.
time.
Yep. Yeah, it's so interesting how even with all of these weird idiosyncrasies, like people have like stuck around and like figured out ways to communicate and made it work, right?
And I think that's why a lot of people just hanged out playing games throughout the whole night, like those 3 versus 3 and stuff like that. We were just chatting about, what happened lately and what I'm doing. And it would be always like similar people. Some people would rotate, but every night you would see the same, 20 people that would be in different slots, and you would keep track of them, and we would become friends with other people and know what they did. This guy is a math professor. This guy lives in that place. This guy is doing a tour of Asia now and will be offline for this many times. So a
Yeah.
lot of interesting. I met a lot of interesting people that day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think Warzone's unique in that way, right? Especially nowadays with games, usually everything's based to a server which is based in your local region,
Mm-hmm.
for, latency and all those things that you have going on. So
Yeah,
when you have a game like Warzone, you have people all over the world playing on the same game. It's
yeah, that's
not as
much
common as
cooler.
probably used to be. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for me it's a lot cooler because I already know people from my own. I already know my culture. I want to know other cultures, but I
Yeah.
don't. Maybe that's just me. Some other people prefer to, stick with their own language or stuff like that. But I like to know other people from other places and see the differences between the different cultures more than talk with people from my own culture about things that I already know.
Yeah. No, that's great. Um, I was going to ask about favorite memories, but I feel like we've probably been talking about some of your favorite memories for a little bit,
Oh,
but
there are more. A lot of I remember a lot of the WGLs that I did were with pushover, and he was from the United States, so he was always
okay.
waking up by the time we were streaming, and it was always a slow process. He was always brain dead in the beginning of the thing, and then by the end, I would be starting to become brain dead, and he would start to wake up and be smart. So that was a very interesting dynamic, and I really enjoyed
Yeah.
those sessions as well. And a lot of other people, I forget the names because I'm bad with names, but there were a lot of cool people that would show up. Fridge was one of them, also
Hmm.
called Malamute, I think, also helped cast a lot of stuff. I still have a few Polish guys on my Steam as friends, which I don't remember the nickname on
On
here
Warlight or
anymore.
Warzone, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of other people. Stixie also helped me cast a lot. B also helped. A lot of different people helped throughout the day. And eventually, WGL, I started having less time to focus on that. So other people picked up. I also attended the first European gathering of
Oh,
Warlight,
nice.
which happened in, I'm going to say Berlin. I think it's Berlin,
Okay.
yeah, which was really cool to meet some of the people in person and stuff. And I think it happened again. I think it was already twice that took place. It would be cool to have more of those. So,
Yeah.
so yeah.
more in person, and you're not the first person to say that either. Other people have been very interested in doing a get together, so I think that'd be pretty sweet, even if it's just in your local regional area.
Problem
Still,
with well, in Portugal there weren't that many Portuguese players playing, at least strategically, hardcore. So that was always hard to find. I only know a couple of them, Pink and some other guy, which name I don't remember anymore. Like if you check the quick match settings for Portugal, there are not that many active people. So for me to organize something in Portugal, it's really complicated. But if
yeah,
people want to fly down to Lisbon, I actually have I just got an extra house. I bought a new house.
nice.
My old one is still trying to figure out if I should lease it or
Mm,
something, or rent it or whatever. So I had this idea the other day. I could host like a gathering of people here and have the
wow.
conditions to stream stuff. So I should get back together with the old
Yeah.
Warlight people and try to organize that.
Wow. That
Because
would
at the
be
time when we were in Berlin, they told me, okay, the next one will be in Portugal. Like, I'm not organizing that. But now I can. Now I can. I have the
that's
place.
awesome.
I have the conditions. You just need to fly everyone in, and we can figure something out.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess, let's keep the conversation going. If anybody's in Portugal, definitely reach out to PS. Um, I think the only way that people are motivated like yourself to do these things is comes from these interactions we have, right? These memorable times, whether it be in a live game or not. And I was looking at your profile, and you have a couple games on here that are listed as your favorite games, and I'm assuming that some of these are from the WGL initially.
One of them was an epic game from the WGL, which I paired up. I'm going to say Nalzor, but I'm not sure anymore. And it was in Middle Earth, and it should be a fast game, right? It took us like 45 minutes, and we weren't stalling. We really went to like 35, 40 turns. At some
Wow.
point we had the whole world covered, and we were both at 5 income. So it was like every turn was insane, and very, very hard fought. That was probably one of the most memorable games that I have, and I think it's listed under those. The other ones are like stuff that I won, like winning the Poland tournament, I think, and some 3 versus
Nice.
3 matches that were also
Yep.
intense. So, but that particular one against, I'm not sure if it's Lausor or not, but I think it's Lausor. That one was bloody epic, and we laughed so much hard because the whole stream was waiting for the game to end, and we're like, we're not stalling, we promise. This is just really strange game happening.
That's awesome. That everybody whose attention was on your match. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess, getting kind of into the weeds on the actual gameplay itself, what is maybe a strategic tip that you found really worked for you or still works for you when you play, in the game, or maybe something for new players, whatever it would be.
Picks. Most of the game is based around picks. Yeah, you need to know the template very well before, uh, and think very well about what you're picking. If you pick wrong, like picks are half the game. You have to pick right just to survive the game. So yeah, picking phase is one of the most important things to train, that I would recommend people to train, to talk with other people more experienced. How did I pick optimally? Did I pick badly? And the concept of figuring out the optimal pick and assuming that your opponent will pick the optimal pick and picks to counter that, and then assuming that your
Mm,
opponent also knows the counter picks to those and picking the counter picks to the counter
yeah.
picks of the optimal picks. Those are the little nuances that really make a lot of difference on the when you reach the higher tiers of strategic play, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. That's really good advice. I mean, for me, and maybe I was talking with somebody the other day about my perspective on the game compared to so many of the people that I have on the show, is I don't have the knowledge that half of you have probably. So I have this very new player mindset, which I think is good for anybody that's listening to the podcast, maybe for
Mm-hmm.
the first time or is new to Warzone as a player. But I may sound like a big newbie when I talk to you or ask
Yeah,
these
but
kinds of
you ask
questions.
important questions from the newbie perspective, so that's also very interesting for
Right.
people to listen to. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm leading up to with that is that when you're making a pick, it's not just about picking a 2 or a 3 point bonus. It's more about the position of it and then starting and expanding from there. Also
Eh,
knowing what your opponent's picks are going to be.
Yeah, yeah. Well, generally speaking, it depends a lot on the template. Some templates you want to make sure that you're safe at one point, make sure you have income that is safe, and at the same time have a
Mm,
position that is disruptive to the other people. But it differs a lot if you only have, 3 picks. It's very different from when you have like 7 picks.
yeah,
So it depends a lot on the map
so
and the
much
dynamics of the
variation.
map. So each template, you need to study it very well, see other games that happen there, understand why people picked like that. And that's why I started doing the strategic strategic guide videos. There was when the cloth started becoming famous, known.
Yeah.
That man created a specific cloth which had a lot of strategic templates, and I thought it would be a very good resource to have, for newcomers to want to join that. They need to be on par to, what is the default standard,
Mm,
the minimum requirement for you to do well in this template. So like a crash course sort of thing.
yeah.
So that was the idea behind those videos. Look at the template, play a few games on that template, understand it, talk with other people who are also very good strategically, have them on the video, validating what I'm saying, if I'm saying something wrong, or if there's something that could be
Right.
like, subjective, have that insight. And
Yeah.
then, just attack each template one by one, show the picks, the logic behind the picks, discuss them with the person, and try to make sure that the video is relatively small so people will actually bother watching it. And I kind of like those series. I think those were the most relevant series of videos that I did for Warlight/Warzone. I think people can still take value out of those videos, even if you're a seasoned person or if you're a new person. If you check those videos, you will understand how the game works and how to play optimum on that specific template.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I 100%, and I'm going to link it in the episode and in the YouTube video so that you guys should definitely go check out the work that he's put in and trailblazed for probably a lot of Clan League players and probably clans even today.
Yeah,
And
a lot of these templates were also used on Clan League. So yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. So then I guess that kind of leads into my next question around clans. You're with Harmony, and
No, I'm not.
oh, you're not.
I'm in no clan. I'm a clanless
He's a
person.
clanless person, so this is
Yep.
perfect. That's right, because before the episode, everyone, I'm just going to admit it. I found the wrong account and I felt absolutely horrible. So I, for some reason, thought he was in Harmony, but he's not. So this is still perfect because why do you choose to be clanless, or what is your perspective on clans, especially with Clan League sort of becoming the main, no, not main, but or even Clan Wars, right? It's all based around being in a clan. What are your
Uh,
thoughts on that?
I like that concept of having the clan and have them fight each other out. I think that brings a great dynamic to the game. The main reason why I'm not part of a clan is because I was in clans in other games before Warlight, and it's more stressful for the whole thing. Either you dedicate too much to the clan, or you don't dedicate enough, and then there's always clashes with other people who are doing the same thing, either not dedicating enough or dedicating too much, being too much tryhards to make sure that it's
Mm,
very good. It always creates drama. And when I joined Warlight, I was not looking to get into any more clan drama. So I just decided I'm going to be a lone wolf. I'm not going to join any clans. I had many requests of people. Still nowadays, when I play a random quick match game, person is like, "Oh, you don't have a clan, but you play good. You're like top 200 of quick match. You should join this clan and join Clan League." I'm like, "Yeah, no, thank you. I respectfully decline." That was actually one of the ways that I could tell when the Clan League was starting the new season, was when the invitations for joining clans would start popping up out of nowhere.
that's awesome.
So I
Yeah, I mean,
respect if people want to do clans. I think that's
sure.
great. That's fine. but in my experience, I had some good stories and some bad stories with clans on the internet and
Sure.
taking things too seriously. And I didn't want to take things too seriously, because once I commit to something, I want to commit to it for real. And then I
Mm,
start demanding other people to do the same thing. And it's not fair to demand, people when it's like a
mm,
hobby, a game.
sure.
And it always creates some tension. And I just don't want to deal with that kind of drama anymore.
Yeah, and that's totally fair and understanding. I think for myself, and I'm with a clan currently that I
Mm-hmm.
picked before I really started getting into it, simply because I could. It was probably one of the tier achievements, right, or something I could do. Um, that I was like, well, everybody else seems to, so I do. But I still feel like I'm probably
I,
searching for a clan, honestly, or
you learn a lot.
not
You
really
learn a lot with
connected.
clans, because you always have like one or two persons in the clan that's like actually bothering to
Right.
explain to you how things work and help you improve and stuff like
Yep.
that. So it's a good experience. And socially, if you need people to motivate you to keep trying hard, or to show up to make sure that you are playing your turns on your games, having a clan is a great way to ensure that someone will bother you about that eventually, and help you get better. So or just have fun, people to chat about the game, about what happened recently.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
No, definitely. There's benefits and obviously minuses with being clients, as you've already shared.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think you've mentioned to me. I think you're not playing as often as you used to, but um, you did say that you had gotten back into the game, and when you were, you had tried out Idle, which obviously is a very new version of the game.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I'm not as big of an Idle player as some are, but I think it definitely lends itself to adding other benefits to the players that are doing strategic things to add levels that aren't members of the game. Um,
I
but
don't know. I don't see a very strategic kind of thing. I mean, maybe if you do like those clashes that happen every hour or every 15 minutes, those can be a bit more strategic. But I just
yep,
do the single player idle stuff. And even then, sometimes I get bored out of it. It feels like there's some things that I would wish that would be different on the idle. Like some of the leveling feels a bit unbalanced. The way that you unlock stuff, the way that you can't configure the special elements, you need to keep swapping them back to take the maximum out of the time. So you leave your stuff idling for this X amount of time, and when you come back, you're supposed to swap the items to give you advantage when you are picking stuff up, then swap stuff again when you're buying stuff. And it's just too much swapping around and clicking around. I'm clicking this just to have like a 1% advantage over this shit. It's a waste of my time. So I quit idle after that. And then eventually I came back, I'll just do one more, but casually just leave the three items there and not touch them ever. And whenever I'm here, I'm here. Whenever I'm not here, I'm not here. So I don't really care that much if it's happening or not. But I'm a bit divided on it. On one hand,
okay,
I find it interesting. On the other hand, it feels like a kind of a time waster.
sure,
And I would
yeah,
like to participate more on the battle things, but you need to unlock a lot of things and change all of the cards and settings or your AP points to participate on those. And I find that a
yeah,
bit silly. You should have like separate systems so you don't have to reconfigure everything back and forth
mm,
whenever you want to have optimum settings for the battle thing. So that's why I stopped playing the battle thing. I just focus on the standard idle.
yeah,
But
yeah. I think
I think
idols.
I
Go
go
ahead.
on.
No,
I
please.
think the most important thing for me is actually the quick match. I think it's what is more interesting. That's why I still play like I try to play like one game a day, but try to really focus on that.
Hmm.
And sometimes I get frustrated when I lose stupidly, and
Mm,
then I quit it for a few days. But then I always come back and just play just one more. You see, the hard thing is that you need to keep practicing those templates.
mm,
And there are some templates that I haven't played in a long time. And then when you play, you are up against people who play them daily. So you need to be on point. Otherwise, you do a mistake
sure.
and And for me, I'm like top 200 on the quick match. So if I lose a
Wow.
game, I lose 10 elo, and then I have to win
Yeah.
10 games back just to get back to where I was, and it gets really frustrating because of that. I sometimes I just play casually, just open a random game that is happening and play 3 versus 3. But
Sure.
then there's you have this feeling that you're not getting anything out of that. You're just entertained for 1 hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours. You're not really. There's no points. There's no comparison system. So I don't know. I get bored from those as well. That's why I don't play as much nowadays.
And I think that's really, good points. And obviously you've come from, I think probably, the pinnacle of when you were enjoying it was probably with WGL, right? Because you have all this interaction, this live playing going on. And obviously there is that in quick match, but there's no, like you said, levels really just have to do with, you could be a really good idler or a really good player strategically, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with each individual game. They apply to that, but there's not as many benefits. So I can see where you're coming from. I think I've heard a couple players have voiced that on here as well, is that it'd be really great to sort of revamp the quick match games so that it would be more entertaining.
One of the
more
main
reasons to
griefs that I have against quick match, I kind of like the helo system. I understand that. The thing is, I would like to have a separate account, just play for kicks and not lose my elo, just to practice those templates.
Sure.
And then I have another one when it's for real, and then
Yeah.
I have to win this game for sure. So that's the only distinction that I would have. The other grief that I have with the quick match is there are some templates there that are just completely RNG, which is like half of them I have to disable because it's just no strategic value in them whatsoever. It's just people, they have fun with those. Great, but why are those bundled in the elo matched things? It doesn't make any sense to have an elo. It's a very easy way for you to lose elo. Let's put it like that. I have those games. It's like 50-50 chance of winning. It's not relying on skill. It's it's luck based, and I don't want to risk my elo on luck based games. So I have to disable all of them. And if I had a separate system, one for elo where I play for real, just on the templates, that is very good, which used to be the real-time ladder before the quick match showed up. And then another one for random quick games that you just want to play just for fun. Those would be cool. But for those, I don't go for quick match. I go for random auto game that is happening now. I just look at whatever open game is available, and I just try to join one of those.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think those are really good thoughts as far as your own experiences. I think that's a big part of what this podcast is about, is allowing people to share what their experience is, and everybody's had such a different take. So it's been really good to hear, and I think a lot of people appreciate your insight on it as well.
I think the main thing is that there are a lot of different groups of people who play Warlight for different reasons, and I'm more of a strategic side of things, but a lot of people just play, casually, just for fun, with just, I have a mate and he's also joining, and we're just, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. But I'm a competitive person, so I want a strategic thing, and I want to make sure there's like even the randomness in it. Sometimes it's frustrating, like just the thing that you don't have first turn. If it happens 2 turns in a row, I feel like flipping a table because it's the fucking computer that's screwing me. I could have won this game if it wasn't the damn luck. So that's really infuriating. But a lot of people play it casually, and I understand why Fizzer caters to them as well, because those people who play it casually like those lottery games and that thing that's just for fun, for silliness. And I understand why it's there. I would just like be able to filter it better to focus on the stuff. I can already filter it. The main issue with the filtering system for a quick match particularly is that I filter these templates out. And then the votings change, and one of the templates gets removed. And then whenever I win a game, the template gets added back, and I have to go back to settings and disable it again. If I forget to disable the template that just popped back up again, then I'm going to end up with that game playing, and then I'm going to lose a random thing and lose 10 elo on a random game on the template that I never played before, and it's completely random generated shit, and I will get upset.
Right.
so yeah,
The
that's
ever evolving templates.
yeah, the system of filtering in and out, it's not very, it should have a better memory, so that once you disable the template, even if it comes back to the playable list, it should already be disabled by default.
Hmm.
So and I already told this Fizzer, and he just like,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, this is excuse why it's not like this. I'm like, great, but this is a horrible user experience for me.
Yeah, it's funny because usually I ask around, sometime in the interview I'll be like, "Hey, so what are some things you'd like to see improved?" But I'm glad we've arrived. We've made it there.
Yeah, I was always very, because I'm a developer as well.
Sure.
I'm a computer programmer by trade, so I know how these things work and how they could be better and how they could improve,
Yeah.
and the nuances, the pros and cons of different stuff. So I always been very vocal with Fizzer specifically about those things, and I used to post tickets on the ticket system that they had. This is what could be improved, and this is how you should change stuff, and I would comment on that. And whenever Fizzer was on WGL, I would talk to him about that, trying to convince him to do that. And the more I did that, the more he was like, okay, but this is just you pushing this issue, not the entire community. I'm like,
sure.
yes, okay, you have a point, but I would still like to have my personal user experience improved.
Yeah, right. True.
But ultimately, it's the developer that has charge of the thing. The whole commanders and new troops thing, I don't know. I guess for you, commander is standard. For us, for me, there was no commander when I started playing. There was a new troop that got introduced.
Okay.
And people from the strategic community were very against the commander because it was more silliness than strategic play.
Right.
And commander is in everywhere. Like, you try to play the default games,
it
default single
changes
player.
the meta completely.
Yeah, it changed a lot of things. And so I think a lot of people just also, I get it that some people like this kind of stuff, special troops stuff, but a lot of strategic players were also very against it. I remember at the time. I don't know nowadays if they're still against it. I would like to hear opinions of people who are actively playing on Clan League and stuff, if they're still against commanders. But at the time, people were very against those kind of special troops that completely changed stuff for the more randomness way.
Right. Yeah, and I think there's pluses and minuses to the game, in that there's so many variations, right? These maps wouldn't probably, I mean, he can obviously put them into the template lists, but Fizzer can. But even just joining like a random multi-day game or a real-time game that somebody's created, you really have no idea what you're walking into unless you really look through it, because there's so many things that people can adjust and change that you're probably going to find something that's not going to be your
and multi-attack.
Right.
Deploy only. There was this great template where you would have to gift or bomb other people just to stay alive in the game, because you would have negative income from having too many troops.
Oh yeah, sure.
When local deployments became a thing, and this template is really fun. It's really fun to play, but if you're playing it at strategic level, like, you're fearing for your life. You don't know what the hell is happening on each play. Like multi-attack. Multi-attack is also very fun, but you don't want to join a random multi-attack template when you have 10 elo on the line. So you end up only playing the templates that you are very good at, and that kind of takes the fun a bit away from the game. It becomes more boring. It doesn't become as exciting. So
sure.
But there are a lot of different settings, and the maps are also different. So there's a lot of nuances and niches and ways to play and to Warlight. I think that's one of the big appeals of the game as well, because you can customize the game to be what you have in your head. That risk should have been like the ultimate risk should have been like this, and you can do those things to sort of be like that and be in control of your own. So you're like the dungeon master for come and meet my template and see if you are worthy of winning against me.
Right. Yeah, I mean it really has turned into that in a lot of ways for a lot of players, but I think there's definitely still people like yourself out there that are incredibly set on, more of a strategic mind and setup and playthrough. But because there is so much variation now, strategic is probably a little bit different to each player. I mean, obviously, I think Clan League has probably standardized a lot of what strategic is in Warzone now, but
Mm-hmm.
either way, I think it's so interesting. The meta has changed so much, probably since you started, obviously in 2011. So it's really great to get your insight on it, and even as a developer, which I guess I should have as my next question. um, Usually earlier in the interview, I like to ask about your name, how you came up with it. But, even further, taking it a step further, you have a YouTube channel, PS Enough. And I think this would be a great opportunity for you to share a little bit more about, not just the Warlight and the Warzone videos that you've put out and make, but maybe the rest of what you do as, like you mentioned, being a developer.
So yeah, PS comes from when I was young and naive. I was trying to come up with a fancy nickname for myself, and I came up with this nickname called Psychic Symphony. So it's like
Nice.
the symphony travels through the mind and I can read it from your head and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool and abstract and shit like that.
Yeah,
But then when we try to log in on IRC or any other thing, it's too long to type Psychic Symphony. It's like more than 14 characters or something. So I would
sure.
have to shorten it. I would always have to put, psychic underscore S or something like that.
Yeah.
And, and I didn't like that. So at some point, I was trying to abstract it away. So I ended up with the short form of just using PS, which sounded great on paper. But then the logins of everything also ask for more than 2 letters because two
Yeah.
letters is too little. So I was back to the same problem of before. So, and at the time I was having, I have a net label, which is a record label that puts music out for free, everything free for download. And I have this net label called Enough Records. If you go to enoughrecords.scene.org, you can download all our catalog since 2000, everything free for download, from music of all different genres, electronic music, more indie pop music, rock, industrial, all kinds of noise, dark ambient. We have all sorts of
Wow.
different genres. I've been running this for 23 years now, since 2000. So at the time, I started using PS Enough because it was PS from Enough,
Yeah.
because Enough Records. So it just became PS Enough. And yeah, so when people ask me, how do you pronounce the name? It's just PS because it's PS stands for, Psychic Symphony. And that's my artist name as well. I also do music and all my stuff is signed as PS. And then Enough from Enough Records, which is my net label. So yeah, I started using that in everywhere. And when social media became more standard, I used the same login for all the accounts, just so people can recognize immediately that it's me on different places.
Yeah, and I've been subscribed to you probably since pretty close to since I started because, when you go to look for Warlight Warzone content on YouTube, it's
Yeah, there's not
far and
that
few
much.
between, but you really definitely, have probably the most of it still out there of anybody. So
Maybe I
definitely people should go check him out, but maybe even if you could speak to the Demoscene situation or things that you're
So yeah, so
managing, that's really
if you go
interesting.
to my channel, if you go to my YouTube channel, you will mostly see me talking about Demoscene stuff. And Demoscene is a culture from a computer culture from creative people who, since the 80s, been trying to push what the machines can do. So the Commodore 64, the Spectrum, the Amiga, the Atari, and PC as well. What we call the normal standard PC Windows machine nowadays. So there's this culture dedicated to pushing the limits of what you can do with the machine, both doing creative things and doing, technical things, trying to get the most out of the machine that the creators of the machine did not think it was possible to do that. And this is called the demo scene because it demonstrates what the machine can do. So this has been going on since the 80s. When I was growing up and getting into computers in the late 90s, I became aware of this thing. It wasn't very popular in Portugal, but I got very hardcore into it, following what was happening outside of Portugal, going to parties there, organizing events here in Portugal. So I'm a very seasoned demo scener for many, many years, for 25, I guess, sort of years.
Wow.
So when I started doing content for YouTube, I also started doing some content related to Demoscene, like contextualizing Demoscene, doing the highlights of the stuff. I have a lot of videos like doing a summary of what happened in the month of like January. I'm preparing a month for January 2023, where I go through all of the new things that are Demoscene related, like if a demo scener released this demo, I talk about it. If there was like a publication talking about Demoscene, talk about it. Videos on YouTube, parties that happened, I do like a summary of that, and I do a video out of that. So I have a lot of those sort of videos contextualizing Demoscene and interviewing other demo sceners and stuff like that. So I try to actively promote this digital arts culture in Portugal and in the world. So yeah, I'm very hardcore into that. That's one of my main hobbies is the demo scene.
Yeah, and I've just been really fascinated with. I mean, I'm not a developer. I'm I can't even begin to think about how you guys would create some of this stuff, but it's pretty amazing to see even in this
It's small
some of them very
steps.
retro styles, which I think is, if anything, probably coming back. So anybody that's listening, you should definitely go and
Yeah.
check out what he's
Well,
doing and what he's working on, and all these other developers that are putting out this content.
two things that I can quickly mention. The first thing is, if you don't know where to start, I actually wrote a guide about that, and I did a seminar, 14 days to become a demo scener. And each day you do a different step. You learn about the demo scene and you try to make a demo by itself. It's not rocket science. It's more reachable than you might consider. You do need to know some programming basics, but even if you don't do programming, even if you're just like drawing, or you like doing 3D modeling, or you like doing photography, you like doing music, anything that is slightly creative digitally, you can try to make Demoscene production out of it. And a lot of Demoscene events have these kind of competitions open to those separate kind of activities, artistic exposures, I don't know what to call it, but for those different kind of niche things. So you don't need necessarily to be a programmer, but it definitely helps. And I think everyone should know the basics of programming. At least it's not as unachievable as some people might consider.
Yeah.
The basics can take you a very long way if you just try to keep it simple. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I don't remember what it is anymore. So I guess that's the only thing I wanted to mention. But I had another one. I just don't know what it is.
Either way, if you do come up with it after the podcast, we'll make sure to link it below for you guys to check out. But before we kind of wrap things up, P.S. Thank you so much for being on. But I like to give people an opportunity to give kind of their final statement on Warzone, or just their overall thought and what it is about the game that keeps bringing you back. You mentioned these quick matches and obviously all of your history in the game. What is it about Warzone for you?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I have quitted Warlight. I still call it Warlight. I've quit Warlight like 2 or 3 times before, and then I just spent like, I don't know, a month not playing any games, and then I eventually just creep back and start playing again daily. I don't have the same social interaction as I used to have, so it's more for the strategic challenge of it. I really like the niche strategic settings that you can get out of it. And if you check like other risk alike games, none of them really comes close to Warlight. Some might have like better games and more simplified mechanics, but Warlight goes a bit deeper than that. It has more control of the configurations that you can create, and has a bigger community around it as well, which I'm not as part of, but I'm still in a few Discord servers, and sometimes I get a ping and go there and read some messages and talk with some people. So
Well,
So yeah,
I consider you a big part of the community, so thank you for the work that you've done, whether it be now or in the past or in the future. We
you're
really
very welcome.
appreciate you being on the podcast, and power to you and your future endeavors, whether they be in Warzone or not. Very
And
very much
I,
enjoying your content. So,
I want to give a shout out to you as well, because it's really cool that people are doing more content about Warlight. I think podcast is a great idea. I think it works very well to explain people, expose people uh, to other ideas from other people, from other players, and I think
hmm.
it's a great value for Warlight slash Warzone. So thank you so much for organizing it,
Oh, of
and keep
course.
up the good work.
Yes. Well, thank you to the listener for being here with us and sticking around for the last 50 minutes or so. And we're going to keep doing more content, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.